truly powerful figure in the pro wrestling world, Antonio Inoki finds a new rival in Bob Backlund of New York, the king of 3WF. Only fighting techniques born of rigorous training can be considered a quality good enough for pro wrestling today. The high quality of exchanges is assured, for both Inoki and Backlund have had the same coach, Karl Gotch. The action of the two fighting kings might be called the art of fighting.
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spenser.
I have never, ever eaten marijuana.
And I'm definitely have been the WWF champion, I swear.
And we are coming to you from December 6th, 1979, from the Kurame Kokugigan.
That's so proud of
my
you.
best effort. I'm so sorry. From Tokyo, Japan.
Kurame Kokugigan.
That's right, Kurame. It is the WWF Heavyweight Championship match between champion Antonio Inoki and challenger Bob Backlund.
Go figure.
How about it?
Yeah.
Episode 82, friends. That's right. We are into season 5. We had an incredible season opener, don't you think?
It was really, really fun stuff. One of the most highly requested matches we've ever had in Last Match Standing history.
And my second favorite match of all time.
Really, really good stuff.
Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels. Definitely go listen to that or watch it if
overrated.
you haven't. We want to say just a huge shout out to all of you guys for listening to that first episode of Season 5. And we want to make sure that you are part of our journey here in Season 5. And there's a few ways to do that. The first of which, of course, is to follow us on socials. You can do that on Facebook and on Twitter at Last Match Cast. If you have any match suggestions, any comments, reviews, whatever, feel free to send that to our email, lastmatchstanding@gmail.com. Also, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And also, at Last Match Cast, there it is. You see it.
Not really. But
Not
that's cool.
really? Okay. Great. That worked out really well for us. Thank you. But also, you can watch us on YouTube. We are recording all of our episodes in video format. That's some of the feedback that we got in our Season 4 end-of-season survey. And so we are doing those, and you can watch them on YouTube, the Last Match Standing podcast channel on YouTube. So
how many times can we say YouTube in one sentence?
Well, you know, if you're
103.
watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that one of the things that we do besides posting on YouTube is we also have a Patreon. We just finished recording episode 31 of our last Mania Standing series, which unfortunately is not on YouTube, but you can access the audio not from YouTube, but rather on Patreon. If you sign up to the correct tier for our last
YouTube
Mania
is not
Standing
paying us.
No,
spin-off.
they're not. This makes me think of whenever WWF got their Domino's thing, and they had to say Domino's 60 times.
That's right.
Did you know Snickers satisfies?
Did you know that they're delicious? Fruity! They're Skittles!
I really liked when the Sonic car hop came up to them, to the commentators at ringside.
Oh, my God.
That was the best one.
I love Sonic. We should get Sonic after this.
We should get Sonic after. Oh, no, wait. No, we shouldn't.
Neither here nor there. We have a great episode. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, Twitter polls. And Twitter polls will be part of our Season 5 here. We're about to drop a poll to help decide what's going to be featured on this season. And you can vote on Twitter at Last Match Cast And if you subscribe for just one singular American dollar to Patreon, you get an extra vote in that poll. So, and honestly, we've seen time and time again where that Patreon poll shifts the weight.
Oh, absolutely.
enough.
We've had polls that looked like they went one way on Twitter, and it went a totally other way because of the Patreon votes counting. In addition to that,
Exactly. So buckle up. We've got a great rest of season 5 for you. We are on the road to 100, and we make a great pit stop on this episode all the way back. This is just our second match from the 1970s.
wow.
Yeah, 1979, Inoki and Backlund.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming having both of these men make this list. Two absolutely legendary professional wrestlers in their own right.
Oh, stalwarts.
A really, really good word for it. So let's jump right in. Kanji Inoki was born in 1943 into an upper-class family in Yokohama. He was the 6th son and the youngest of 7 boys and 4 girls. His father, Sajiro Inoki, was a businessman and a politician, and he died when Inoki was only 5 years old. Inoki was taught karate by one of his older brothers while in 6th grade, and he excelled in sports of all kinds, eventually actually finding success in track and field.
Doesn't
I could
surprise
see it.
me for a second. I mean, look at the way this man is built.
Exactly. Well, and to think about that sort of style of wrestling that Inoki brings to the table, it's endurance-based
Yes,
wrestling,
long
and
and
so
lean.
makes a lot of sense. The family, unfortunately, did fall in hard times after World War II, and in 1957, when he was only 14 years of age, Inoki and his family emigrated to Brazil. He continued sort of finding new sports to excel in overseas, and Inoki would actually win the All-Brazilian Championship in shot put and discus.
I believe that.
Is there anything this man cannot do?
I want to know who else on our list has a discus championship to their name. I just
Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Could be. Could be. Is that true? Like, you know that?
Well, the anvil toss is very similar to the discus throw
Oh,
and
well,
the shot put, so it's transferable skill.
it is. No, I agree.
Inoki met Rikidozan at the age of 17 while in Brazil and traveled back to Japan as his apprentice. There, he trained in the Japanese Wrestling Association dojo under Carl Gotch.
Because of course he fucking did.
Yeah, absolutely
Any-
does not surprise
Any
me.
relation to Simon?
No,
You know, there's a little bit of the mustache, kind of
Just-
carries over.
I don't think Carl Gotch had a mustache.
He trained under Gotch alongside classmate Giant Baba. It sounds exactly like that.
We've heard Giant Baba on commentary for some of the All Japan matches we've done.
Baba and Inoki had such a similar trajectory and, of course, would go on to form these two rival promotions.
New Japan and All Japan.
But a lot of people don't know Baba and Inoki actually debuted on the same show for
up.
JWA
didn't know
on
that.
September 30th, 1960. After Rikidozan was murdered, Inoki worked really closely with Baba until he left for excursion to the United States, that being in 1964. In 1966, he would return to work for Tokyo Pro Wrestling, where Inoki would quickly become their biggest star and would wrestle such names as Johnny Valentine, who was the father of Greg the Hammer Valentine. Unfortunately, that company folded in 1967 due to issues securing financial support, which, look, independent wrestling is very difficult. We get it. Returning to JWA in 1967, Inoki was made Giant Baba's tag team partner, and the two would dominate the tag team ranks as B.I. Cannon, winning the NWA International Tag Team Championship belts 4 times.
Damn.
I mean, these two were just a force to be reckoned with, unsurprisingly. But Inoki was an ambitious man.
Really?
And in 1971, he was fired from JWA for literally planning to take over the promotion.
Mutiny, yeah.
Alongside Giant Baba. They were both
Man.
planning a takeover. And this led to Inoki forging one of the most prominent pro wrestling organizations of all time, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Never heard of him.
In
They'll never make anything in this business.
1972. 1972 also being the year that a man named Walt Disney created Walt Disney World. Just by the way, same year.
Does that predate WWF?
It does not predate WWF. Well, technically, if you want to get technical about it, it predates WWF,
But not worldwide
not
wrestling.
WWF.
That's what I meant, though.
Correct.
Like the current lineage of WWF, I think, is like later. That's what.
Correct.
That predated.
That is correct, and we will get there.
Walt Disney World, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Same year.
Man, the way
There's
we
something
connect
there.
things.
There's something
is-
there.
They should do some cross promotion.
What
I
would
wish.
that look like?
I wish Mickey Mouse ears on
No,
on Kazuchika Okada.
that would look.
I'm truly just creating this conversation for the sake of you editing stuff in later.
I appreciate it.
That would be Giant Baba wrestling the Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Did you like my Hamburglar? The March Hamburglar? That was good stuff. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I want to see Giant.
If you haven't
Baba.
seen our last episode on YouTube, go back and watch it.
So
It's a
good.
good time.
So good.
Inoki's
no.
very first match in New Japan Pro Wrestling was against his former trainer, Carl Gotch.
Of the Vaudevillains.
in 1975.
Wait, does Enzo show up and get a concussion?
Oh, guys, you need to stop.
Wait, I'm so
Anyway,
sorry. This has
okay.
nothing to do with anything.
Okay, here we go.
I'm so sorry. But I just need your guys' opinion, and I want to know your opinion, listener, as well. What do we think about Ric Flair training to have another match?
Wait, what?
I think it's a fucking travesty.
He's been training with Jay Lethal, and the rumor is it's not just like a video, haha, he posted this video. He's like really trying to have another match. The rumored
Excuse
match
me?
is him and FTR versus the Rock and Roll Express and somebody else.
I
Okay.
didn't know this. Are we talking about this right now? Because I can't
just-
even wrap my head around
I know.
that.
I needed to ask your opinion, and I thought it was a good conversation for the pod.
I'm
I
sure.
think it's a terrible idea.
I'm sure whatever he does, whoever he works with, will understand that they're in the ring with Ric Flair.
He's gonna get his ass out at one point.
I mean, it's Ric Flair.
It just feels very dangerous.
Yep.
Is Jay Lethal gonna do his amazing Ric Flair impression?
Well, if you watch the sparring sessions between the two of them, it's basically watching Ric Flair fight Ric Flair.
I need to watch this now.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I apologize.
all
I
good.
just-
Back to Antonio Inoki. His very first match in New Japan was against Carl Gotch.
the Vaudevillains.
And in 1975, he would face Lou Thez, with Inoki actually taking a vicious Greco-Roman backdrop within the first few seconds of the match. And so this is what New Japan quickly kind of became. And this is what New Japan was known for, these high-profile and hard-hitting pro wrestling shoot matches.
What
And
do you
so
think
you
they
have
called the
guys
Lou Thez
like
press
this.
before the Lou Thez press?
Well, he did it first.
Yeah, I don't know that it was called
I know,
anything.
but I just I want there to be something there.
Well, and WWF Attitude is called Press and Knuckles.
the press, God, what is the printer press? The
The print, the
it's the press.
printing press.
I don't know. So, for example, these shoot matches, God damn it! I can't. Now all I can think about is what the hell could the Lou Thez press be other than the Lou Thez press? And
Press and Knuckles.
I
I
think it's
already
gone
told
off
you.
the rails.
If Stone Cold would have started it, right? Because he did. That's who I think of when I think.
I
of Lou Thez
just
press.
told you on WWF Attitude that movie's called Press and Knuckles.
like Sonic and Knuckles, but
But-
press.
right.
So 1976.
WWF Attitude.
Antonio
It's fucking terrible.
Inoki was booked in a special rules match against Pakistani wrestler Akram Palwan. And this match apparently turned into a shoot fight right out the gate. Akram was being a bit uncooperative. And literally he bit Inoki in the arm. And Inoki don't take no shit and started to retaliate with an eye poke. And things just escalated from there. In the end, Inoki won the bout with a double wrist lock, ensuring Palwan's arms would just stay down after Palwan refused to tap out, which was apparently the booked finish for the match. According to the referee, this finish was absolutely not the scripted finish, and this fight just turned into a legit fight, and Inoki legitimately out-wrestled him. And this is the kind of shit that would happen. Inoki would take absolutely, no bullshit from anybody, and he was known as sort of stepping up to these guys who were trying to come in and get one over on New Japan.
A legend in all descriptions of the word, right? Antonio Inoki, incredible, incredible stuff. And I love hearing about that, sort of his life up to this 1979 matchup. I think that's
so. What you're saying is they worked themselves into a shoot, and then he outshot the guy trying to shoot on him.
Sure did. That's Antonio Inoki.
Legend.
Bob Backlund was
also a
born
legend.
in Princeton, Minnesota in 1949. Where he graduated from Princeton High School and was a state finalist in wrestling.
You don't say.
Also a sports ace, Backlund was an All-American in both football and wrestling during his freshman year at Waldorf College in Forest City, Iowa. In 1971, Backlund would win the Division II NCAA Wrestling Championship at 190 pounds. Backlund then trained for professional wrestling was trained by renowned trainer Eddie Sharkey. And let me just, if you haven't heard of Eddie Sharkey, a little bit of a behind-the-scenes guy, but he's literally known as the champion trainer. Let me just give you a brief
is he out of Minnesota?
Brief list of folks who he trained. Sharkey trained Paul Ellering,
Mr.com,
Nikita Koloff, Rick Rude,
okay,
the Road Warriors, Jesse the Body Ventura, Rick Steiner, Sean Waltman, Jerry Lynn, and Medusa, and many, many more.
That's a pretty strong
It's a
class
pretty
right there.
fucking strong list of
I'm pretty
folks.
sure they're all in the Hall of Fame except for Jerry Lynn.
Backlund made his debut for the American Wrestling Alliance in 1973 with a clean-cut sort of technical wrestling look. And this sort of look made him stand out from the crowd and made him a natural face.
Oh, yeah.
And he got over really quickly, but he left AWA to travel across all sorts of different territories across the National Wrestling Alliance, winning several championships along the way. In 1976, Backlund caught the eye of none other than Vincent McMahon Sr. To join the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Okay, so 76 is still the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
That's right.
New Japan's in 1972, so New Japan predates the WWF.
WWF.
That's crazy to think about.
And it didn't take long for Bob Backlund to find himself across the ring from WWF champion, superstar Billy Graham. And throughout 1977, Backlund would challenge for the championship again and again until he began to get a little bit closer each and every time to capturing that gold. Eventually, he earned a double countout, which, of course, championship does not change hands. And then Backlund did defeat Graham by countout. Again, championship doesn't change hands. But February 20th, 1978, in Madison Square Garden, where everything of import happens,
Right.
Backlund finally scores that pinfall victory over Billy Graham and wins the championship despite the fact that the referee did not see Billy Graham's foot was on the rope.
Ooh.
Hey, you got to protect everybody here.
Yeah, we love wrestling.
So, in WWE canon, because I know this build is going to stray away from his recognized title reign lasts until December 26th, 1983.
Oh, my God.
I said recognized because
We'll get
obviously
there.
Antonio Inoki is in possession of the WWF title
We will
for
get
this
there.
match.
Backlund would go on to defend the WWF Championship across the globe against the likes of Mr. Fuji,
It's Master Fuji!
Ivan Koloff, George the Animal Steel, and Ken Patera before traveling to Japan to defend against a man making a name for himself in Antonio Inoki. But how did the WWF Championship end up in the hands of Antonio Inoki? And why is it that if you look into the official record books, that reign has never existed? This is a really interesting story. Well, it all begins when Antonio Inoki orchestrated his biggest fight of all time against none other than Muhammad Ali in the Nippon Budokan in 1976. Although he was entering sort of his twilight years of his boxing career, Ali was still a worldwide star.
Yep.
And guess who noticed this big fight happening across the globe? None other than Vince McMahon Sr. And so it was actually Vince McMahon who made the TV deal to get that match broadcast in the United States.
Wow.
And so obviously McMahon is deeply involved in getting that deal and sees what Inoki can do, and they decided to enter into a long-term working relationship between the Worldwide Wrestling Federation and New Japan Pro Wrestling. First, Inoki would travel to the United States to compete for the WWF in December of 1978, being awarded the WWF Martial Arts Championship. Which makes sense. I mean, he had those shoot fightings, which really, and that's sort of the style that he defended that belt in.
Right.
And meanwhile, other New Japan talent found success, like Tatsumi Fujinami came over to the WWF, and he won the Junior Heavyweight Championship, and that was years before New Japan actually established their own Junior Heavyweight division.
Tatsunoma Fujinami also won the WWE Heavyweight title from Ric Flair in '92.
But the next notable championship reign would be a little less cut and dry, let's say. In 1979, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, now just the World Wrestling Federation,
The world is watching.
sent their WWF champion to Japan to promote the Fed. And Backlund had gained notoriety at that point as one of the greatest ever to do it out of the United States. And his in-ring style just matched up so well with what was going on in Japan.
As far as how they were trained, they were essentially like they're both shooters.
So what better way to get your eyes, to get the eyes of the world on your person, on your championship, on your company, than to send this best wrestler ever in the United States to Japan to wrestle somebody like Antonio Inoki, who was becoming one of the best wrestlers ever out of Japan.
He was the ace.
So
Ace versus ace.
November 30th, 1979, the very first night of his tour in Japan, Bob Backlund defended the WWF Championship against Antonio Inoki and lost. Antonio Inoki was the WWF champion. What's interesting here is if you go back and you watch this match closely, Backlund does nail the atomic drop, which was his big move, on Inoki and gets technically a 3 count from the referee. But while Backlund gets up and starts celebrating his victory because he just got a 3 count, the referee doesn't call for the bell. Backlund just gets suplexed by Inoki since he was distracted, and then the referee counts to 3 again, and Inoki's the champion. So this led to a lot of speculation about what exactly was going on. If I didn't know any better, I would say it looked like New Japan just screwed Backlund out of the WWF title. Well, Backlund, of course, immediately blames the loss on outside interference because there is a little bit of outside interference before all this goes down. Tiger Jeet Singh rushes the ring and distracts both men on the outside, Singh being one of the biggest heels in Japan at the time.
I'm so happy we're talking about Tiger Jeet Singh.
Are you?
Because we talked about his son, Tiger Ali Singh, last episode.
Sure did. Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing how this works.
We
didn't plan this.
We make connections everywhere.
When he shows up during this match, I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, my God. After this match, a damn near riot breaks out in the arena.
You don't
and
say.
Backlund and even Inoki both start attacking Singh. And at least 25 trainers and other New Japan officials try rushing in to regain some order here. Eventually, the ring is cleared, and Backlund pleads his case to the officials, and I think he has a pretty strong case to plead, saying he kicked out before the 3, but the referee's decision was final, and Inoki was the WWF champion. This was a massive deal, with Inoki still looking to establish himself as Japan's top star just a few years into starting New Japan Pro Wrestling at all. And so, that being said, it wasn't necessarily the first time that an American has come in to defend his belt.
No, not at
you
all.
drop it at the end of the tour, and then you get it back before you go home. It's a very, very normal way to do promoting back then.
But the good thing about it was Backlund can lose the belt to Inoki. Inoki can hold it for over a month and then lose it back to him. But nobody across the pond knows about this.
Exactly.
That's how you did business back then.
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
In his book, in his book, Backlund, let me take that again.
Of course he wrote a book. Why wouldn't he?
In his book,
Did
Backlund.
he say Bob screwed Bob?
Bob screwed Bob,
Because
that's
that's
right.
all I keep thinking is that this was some sort of screw job.
Well,
Bob Backlund didn't screw Bob Backlund. The people
screwed Bob Backlund.
Backlund.
He wrote in his book that the switch was done sort of as a favor to Inoki.
Yeah.
To just kind of keep him on par with his rival Giant Baba, because Giant Baba at that time had already won the NWA World Championship twice. Let's see, once was against Jack Briscoe in 1974, and then the other against Harley Race in that same year, 1979. So this was sort of just a, hey, I really need this to happen. Let's make something happen. Let's make something work. And it was agreed that Inoki would win the belt, and then he would just drop it back to Backlund. But that's not exactly what happened. Over the next few days, Backlund would work matches, getting wins over Seiji Sakaguchi, Tiger Jeet Singh, and Tatsumi Fujinami. On December 3rd, 1979, Backlund teamed with Pedro Morales to defeat Antonio Inoki and Tatsumi Fujinami. What a fantastic match that must have been. But on December 6th, 1979, we get the rematch, which only seemed to stir the controversy even further.
So, the finish of this match is something.
Yeah.
It's something.
Yeah, so this match is a little over 27 minutes. And, we think at this point, while we are throwing our notebooks on the ground, as
you do.
When we're looking at these older matches, we're expecting these 60-minute time limit draws, and that's not what we get here.
No?
27 minutes or so from Bob Backlund and Antonio Inoki.
Yeah, from ring introductions to the decision, it's only 38 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole video, which, by the way, you can access this. This is important if you want to watch this match, which we totally recommend. Obviously, we're calling it one of the greatest of all time. It's on New Japan World.
Yeah,
it's absolutely on New Japan World, so give it a look. Really, really worth your time. And like we said, 38 minutes flies by, so happy with that. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to cover it, is because it is accessible, and that's important for us when we're doing this list.
And it's just a piece of almost lost wrestling history.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good stuff.
This unrecognized WWF title run of Inoki, even though it's only a month, still, he held the belt.
Mm-hmm. One of the, biggest names ever in professional wrestling to hold the WWF title is a big deal. It feels like.
Considering we haven't really had a Japanese champion.
That's very true.
We did. In 1979.
We actually did.
Antonio Inoki. So I just want to say, as we're watching the match, it's sort of, some parts of me is like, it doesn't feel like 1979. It
Right?
feels later than that. But then I look at the referee and I go, it's 1979.
That guy's from
with his
1979.
lovely bowling shirt.
It's great.
So
I
guys,
need those red pants.
Oh my God! All the bell bottoms that we see
And-
from the guys who get up on the apron later.
And white shoes.
White shoes.
Yes, indeed. Okay, yeah, let's go through it. Let's take ourselves through the match here. Again, I don't know necessarily who's on commentary here. They seem to be doing a really good job. I'm invested just listening to them.
Sure.
I obviously don't know what they're saying, but they sound great to me. And, they sound very much on top of the story that's being told. And, you got to think about that. Bob Backlund trying to regain the WWF title from Inoki. The story abounds. But as this match starts, it's almost like they're grappling for control.
Yes.
And it's not, the collar and elbow tie-up that you're used to.
I mean,
Exactly.
they do get around to it, but they start with a knuckle lock.
Right.
And it's just stalemate after stalemate after stalemate.
I mean, the rematch, Bob Backlund versus the WWF champion, Antonio Inoki, in the jam-packed Karame Kokigan. And that is actually a sumo arena.
You made it look so easy.
I probably pronounced it wrong. But it was a sumo arena, and I actually looked it up just to see where in the world this is. It's in Tokyo, but it doesn't exist anymore. So this arena, a piece of wrestling history, is lost. And it's just another way that this match is lost to the history of wrestling. They shake hands in the center of the ring before the match starts, which is,
They ain't shaking hands when this is done.
definitely not.
That's for sure.
And then immediately they start just circling around each other to start, which is such a classic wrestling thing. I loved it.
It's weird. I feel like no one does this anymore. They just immediately lock up, which I also don't agree with in some context.
Yeah, well, Backlund goes for the leg sweep. Inoki quickly drops to his knees for the block, which is a really, really great block that you don't see often. Backlund tries to go for a tie-up. Inoki backs into the corner for a break. Then Backlund reaches across Inoki's body, sort of, maybe possibly trying to find the right grip for a takedown, but neither man is able to gain an advantageous position. This is pro wrestling.
Yes.
I think it's really interesting because to me, in my mind, as I'm watching this match, Inoki is the one that initially gains control.
Because he's taller.
And it has a lot to do with his physicality, but also he's very quick.
Yep.
And so anytime Bob Backlund is moments away from getting an advantage, Inoki pushes him off or, slides out towards the bottom rope or something happens.
Right.
And it's just very smart wrestling.
Yeah, one thing I enjoy, though, is Inoki goes for a key lock, but he can't maintain control because Bob is just too strong, and he just literally just shoves him off. And it's one I want to point out. So in the WWF, Bob Backlund's manager was Arnold Skoland. And Arnold Skoland said that Bob Backlund was the strongest and best conditioned athlete he'd ever seen in his entire life.
Wow. There's a reason this man was so successful.
Yeah.
And
he was just unnaturally strong, and he was a super athlete before that was a thing.
a really fun spot that I enjoyed in this match is Inoki locks in a side headlock on Backlund, and Backlund grabs sort of his inside leg and lifts it up. So Inoki, with his leg up, shifts his position in on Backlund and uses the elevation on his leg to perform a monkey flip.
Yep.
And that creates the separation he needs. It was just incredibly intelligent.
Well, it's just, I'm going to take what you're giving me and use it to my advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I had to correct myself. Said, oh, okay, he's going for a knee bar. Like, wait, jiu-jitsu hasn't been established yet, so a knee bar is not a thing. And at one point, Bob goes for a sunset flip, and I'm like, Canadian
It was so close. They were so close to inventing the Canadian Destroyer.
He damn near does it.
Well, and I think actually, to me, it almost looks like a back body drop. Mm-hmm. But I think
it's like a sunset flip, but like the way he hooks Inoki's hips and he rolls forward, I'm like,
Inoki,
Inoki like drops his weight and stops Bob from going.
Right.
There's a point where I'm like, if you do one more rotation, that's a Canadian Destroyer.
Exactly.
And this is 1979. I was about to have a heart attack.
It was beautiful, and I actually feel like it was some sort of an inverted Northern Lights suplex, and we do that. We see it a little bit later. Inoki at one point goes for a takedown, and Backlund locks in double underhooks. Nothing doing. They release. And so you get a lot of these reset moments between the two, and it seems like we've got a stalemate for the WWF Championship.
Well, it just goes to show in kayfabe what they're trying to establish here is these guys are both like top tier. They're both like peak grappler. So they cannot out-wrestle each other. So if they hit a stalemate, they have to back off because if Antonio gives Bob too much, Bob's going to tie him in a knot.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa, if Bob gives Antonio too much, he's going to tie him in a knot.
Well, and we see it a couple of times,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We see where Inoki has Bob Backlund in a submission. Backlund's trying to move out of it, and it gets shifted into like an abdominal stretch.
Yes.
Right? Incredible work being able to twist each other around that way.
Just by adjusting your leverage and by controlling joints, they're able to find these different wrestling holds.
Well, speaking of, at one point, Inoki does get the abdominal stretch after he breaks free of one of Bob's holds, but Bob powers out with a hip toss, once again establishing just how strong Bob Backlund is.
And at this point, Backlund decides to laser in on that left leg of Antonio Inoki.
He's got to soft him up for the atomic drop.
Not to be outdone, Inoki locks in the side headlock. And good Lord, does he work that headlock.
You are not breaking that hold no matter what you try, let me tell you.
Tries to push him off in the ropes. Just tries 100 different possible ways to escape. And finally, when he does
He
escape...
even goes for the head scissors.
And when he does escape, he gets caught right back in it with a headlock takedown. When Inoki finally sees that he's losing his grip on the side headlock, he changes to a cravat, snapmares Backlund over, locks in a figure four around Backlund's neck, and then continues that pressure on the head and neck area that he's been working on for several minutes.
Yeah. I do enjoy how Bob slips out of that hold, gets to his feet, but then Inoki catches him with another monkey flip.
Yep.
And they just had this really great near fall where it's like, okay, I'm going to go for a roll-up. I'm going to reverse that into like a schoolboy pin. And then we fucking get it. I love this shit. We get that inverted Northern Lights suplex, and then Bob bridges out and rolls over into a backslide pin. I'm like, yes. This is what I come to wrestling for.
Yeah.
Actual wrestling.
They trade pin attempts back and forth, and God, I mean, did you see the high angle backdrop on Inoki? I mean, and it's just like at this point.
Well, you're talking about how he gonna break that headlock. It's a big back suplex.
Big back suplex,
and the crowd pops hard for it.
They
that
really
back
do.
Suplex are like, whoa, like look at the way you just lifted Antonio Inoki.
That was something different in 1979.
And Inoki looks hurt. Backlund then goes in for a side headlock of his own, and immediately Inoki hits the backdrop to trade. And
he hits that backdrop quicker and like more crisp, like a boom. Like he was ready for it.
Exactly. It's a story of one-upsmanship, and that's sort of what we see playing out in the ring. That's the storytelling aspect here. These are two of the absolute greatest, one from the U.S., one from Japan. Which one is going to be the best?
Exactly.
I love the double underhook attempt, which it gets reversed, and then we just get a huge headbutt by Inoki, which sends Backlund out of the ring.
Literally out of the ring.
Literally out of the ring. And then he suplexes. They tease Inoki going over the top.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he goes, I'm going to suplex you in the ring. No, I'm going to suplex you out of the ring on the outside. Like, oh, my God, he'll kill him. There's no padding there.
Right. So instead, Inoki suplexes Backlund back into the ring and then goes to the top rope and goes for what looks like maybe a knee drop of some kind.
Yeah, it was. I
rewatched it. Yes. So one of the things that Antonio Inoki is known for is that famous diving knee off of the top, but he misses it, and that opens the door for Backlund to nail Inoki with a vicious pile driver.
Oh, but before that, he does get a gut wrench suplex.
Oh, well, yeah.
Which, of course,
Paul's going to notice the gut wrench every time.
It was my finish. I love the gut wrench. So after one of the pile drivers, that's whenever we get the spot that I'm like, wait, is that a Canadian Destroyer? No, it's just a sunset flip. Bob hits the pile driver, but Inoki kicks out. So I'm thinking he's going to do it again. No, he goes for a Canadian backbreaker. This man will tell you, that's a painful move. I used it in every single match we ever had together.
Don't do it.
But watching Inoki kick off the turnbuckle to roll over.
Oh, my God. Brilliant. Just, so good.
Eat it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the turnbuckle to flip himself over Backlund was just, chef's kiss, right? Like it was just so good. Other thing that was really good that made me feel that way of like, oh God, this guy has it all in Antonio Inoki. His 2 drop kicks to Bob
drop
Backlund
kicks.
were just.
You see the
things of beauty.
height on
that's
those
a
drop
tall
kicks.
man.
These are Bob Holly, like standing drop kick. I'm going to jump 6 feet in the air and kick you right in the chin.
Backlund lands a really quick double underhook suplex and
Thing of
launches Inoki across the ring. Inoki did not take too kindly to getting tossed that far across the ring, closes the distance quickly, and fights for several seconds trying to figure out a way to get the positioning right, but eventually gets the figure four leg lock on Bob Backlund, which he does turn around at one point.
Reverses the pressure, but if you notice, Antonio rolls back over, but Bob goes right under the ropes. Like, well, Antonio, you got to break this hold. And he doesn't want to break it. He's under the ropes. You have to break the hold.
And going back to the story of one-upsmanship, Inoki continues working on that leg for a good portion of the rest of this match.
Well, and we're 22 minutes in, right? We're like, we don't know it yet, but we're in the closing couple of minutes. And something that I think is just fascinating that we don't see much really anymore is after that figure 4, Bob Backlund goes for just like your general body slam on to Inoki. And he's got Inoki up just like a regular scoop slam, and he just can't put the power in his legs to slam Inoki down because of the damage done by the figure 4. So he buckles, and Inoki falls on top of him for a near fall. And I was just like, it makes so much sense because his legs are hurt from the figure 4.
Everything serves a purpose. I really enjoy it because Inoki locks in the full Nelson. I'm like, the master lock. He gets it locked in, and then the best way to break it is to just roll forward.
Yes, so you see Backlund attempt a couple of different escapes of the full Nelson. You see him try and put his fingers together to sort of break out. That doesn't work. So he slides
they have
forward.
You like this, if you actually grab their hands, it takes all the pressure off of your neck. It puts it on your shoulders, but you can kind of get a second to catch your breath and figure out a way to break it. But the best way to break a full Nelson, drop to your knees.
Put all your weight forward, and Inoki just rolls right over the top.
The reason being because if I have you in a full Nelson, I can't hold you up and maintain the hold. So if you fall down, you're either going to slip out or I'm going to go forward. Physics.
At this point, Inoki lands a series of headbutts, and Backlund is woozy.
Did you guys catch the belly-to-belly suplex by Inoki?
I sure did.
I'm like, okay. Man after my own heart here.
So Backlund's woozy from the headbutts. Inoki goes for the pin, but they're sort of off into the corner by the edge of the ring. And so when Backlund kicks out, he kicks out hard enough to toss Inoki over the bottom rope onto the outside.
And signs of the junkyard dog, Backlund hits this sort of on his knees, this running, ramming headbutt to Inoki while he's on the outside.
Love it. Very Backlund.
By the way, we got to mention, crowd is losing their fucking
they're
minds
going
here.
totally nuts.
Oh, they're gone.
This is a traditional Japanese crowd. They start quiet, but by the time you get here, they are standing and they are going crazy. I love Japanese crowds. And this is when we get the Canadian backbreaker, actually. So, did you guys catch? Inoki does an arm drag and goes right into the short arm scissors.
It is the smoothest transition from arm drag to key lock I've ever seen.
And much like the last match we covered, Bob rolls over and picks him up onto his shoulders.
I'm getting chills. I was hoping that y'all caught that. That is the same spot that we saw in Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, and JR says when Shawn Michaels puts that short arm scissors on, he's like, man, I haven't seen that move in a really long time.
Right.
But Kurt Angle reverses the same way that Inoki does here, is he just picks up Bob. Oh, my God. Wrestling is
but
is
if
art.
you notice, he doesn't drop him. He dumps him over the top rope.
Yeah.
Which was a very scary moment because that could have gone very badly.
Well,
Right.
if you notice
on the top.
If you notice, the referee is actually distracted at this moment, which is why Backlund decides to hang Inoki up over the ropes, which could have been grounds for disqualification back in the 70s. Because Tiger Jeet Singh rushes the outside again. And
he
goes,
actually gets into a confrontation with Inoki.
He goes straight for Inoki. and lands a punch on him.
But while this is going on, Backlund lifts Antonio off of the apron over the top rope and hits that huge atomic drop, and he gets the fucking pinfall. And the whole time I'm like, but what's going on with Tiger Jeet Singh? What's going on? I need to know. And then I hear 1, 2, 3. I hear a bell ring, and I'm like, oh shit, Backlund won. But wait a minute. But there's interference. What's going to happen here?
There's a lot of confusion and a lot of controversy surrounding the ending of this match. And so the WWF president over in Japan, I believe it's Hisashi Shinma, goes to the ring and declares the match a no contest due to the interference from Tiger Jeet Singh.
Demands the belt back from Bob, and Bob's like, no.
Oh, no, Backlund was ready to fight everybody in that ring to keep that championship.
Including the crowd, because somebody threw debris at him, and he runs out to the fan in the crowd. I'm like, oh, my God, we're going to have a ride on our hands.
But he was indeed forced to give the championship back to Inoki. However, out of respect for the sport of pro wrestling, Antonio Inoki would refuse to accept the championship back, and therefore the title was officially, unofficially vacated. And I say officially, unofficially because by the time Backlund makes it back to the United States, he's somehow still the WWF champion.
Yes, and the whole thing never happened as far as American audiences were concerned.
Never happened.
Once again, it's very, very carny, but it works because it ensured we got the best possible shows and outcomes in Japan without actually dirtying up and muddying the water of who's actually the champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1979. Yeah. It's not easily accessible information what goes on in these shows that happen overseas.
Yeah, you can't do this kind of stuff anymore.
No, not at all. Not at all. Everybody would know about it, right?
Exactly.
But ultimately, what we get here is two legends for the WWF title, Inoki and Backlund, and it's one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time.
It's absolutely wonderful. It is a lost gem
Truly
in
lost.
Pro wrestling history.
And it's a 1979 match that feels like it came about 20 plus years later. It wasn't a modern. It was a slower paced match, but I actually really enjoyed that because none of it felt rehearsed. None of it felt like
Absolutely
they were being
not.
And it's weird because I actually was listening to Kevin Nash interview, and he said, man, it's great to watch these young guys do all the flips and athletic stuff, but they look like Cirque du Soleil performers. They're helping each other out. And, yeah, it's great. It's fun to watch, but you don't believe it because they're helping each other. And that's why, even though I love watching these fast-paced spot fests, at the end of the day, I really liked watching these slower chess matches.
These sort of matches are definitely my favorite too. And look, everybody comes to wrestling, we've said this so many times, for something different.
Something different.
Some people come to wrestling for the big spots, the big high-flying action, the big fast-paced matches.
They really do this.
And they're fantastic matches as well. But this right here is exactly what I come to pro wrestling for.
And they do the high spots. They do the fast-paced action. But they build up to it, and like the audience has to work for it to get there. And once we do get there, we're like, what the fuck are they going to do next? And I think the fever pitch moment for me is whenever Tiger Jeet Singh shows up, because you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Well, and knowing that he played a role in the end of their first match, and Bob Backlund had defeated him on the road to this rematch. So there's a lot of history there.
You get this lovely, organized chaos of an ending that doesn't feel overbooked. It doesn't feel like a fucked finish. It just like, holy shit, you had to be there.
You had to be there. And
that's what I got from the ending. You had to be there because it was insane.
As much as a disappointment as I feel like it could have been to end that way, it sort of felt right in a way for Tiger to play a part in that finish because he was there the first time and it went Inoki's way. And even this time it goes Backlund's way.
And even if we do officially get like a no contest after the fact, the dusty finish, they handled it so well, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that I don't speak Japanese, so I don't understand what's going on. But I felt like Bob sold it so well Because when he's holding the belt saying no, you know exactly. All those officials saying, you have to give us the belt back.
And
no contest.
For a while there, I'm just like, I don't know if he knew this was going down. Like, it was something to see.
Yeah, I imagine if you don't have the insight that you had going into, you might think, are they pulling a double cross on Bob here?
Right.
No, this was the planned finish, but it feels like a double cross. So therefore, if you don't know, it makes it even more interesting. Because when the match ends and there's still 6 minutes left of the video, and the last 6 minutes is like this, give us the belt back. Fuck you, I'm keeping the belt. It's my belt, I want it. Because when he runs into the crowd, they throw debris at him. When he comes back, he's wearing it. Like,
oh yeah,
this belt stays on my waist.
So, favorite moments?
The fucking Canadian backbreaker. Oh.
The short arm scissors moment.
Yes.
Because of the tie-in to what we just did.
40 years later, we'd see it
very,
again at
very neat
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I love every time there's a reset and they come back and they are like, okay, well, let's try a Greco-Roman knuckle lock this time. Or, okay, well, then I'm just going to throw you into a side headlock really quick. And then they've just constantly always seem to have an answer for each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's like all of those moments. Hard for me to put one.
I said this to you off mic. I said Bob Backlund truly was like the Kurt Angle of his generation.
Oh, easily.
And you can make a similar argument. Antonio Inoki wasn't no slouch either. So watching these legit shooters have a match like this in 1979, get the fuck out. This was awesome. I love this match.
So where in the world could we possibly rank this match?
So I'm going to start relatively low, and I'm going to work my way up.
Okay.
So when you first told me, oh, we're going to do Bob Backlund versus Antonio Inoki, I immediately, you even mentioned this at the top of the show, I was expecting a 60-minute Broadway. So the very first thing I thought of was Bob Backlund. Very first thing I thought was Nick Bockwinkel and Kurt Hennig.
Sure.
Okay. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be somewhere along these lines. And it kind of was to a point, but they didn't have 60 minutes. They had 27. So they had a very similar, but that was more old guard versus new guard, where this is like the current guard versus the current guard.
Yeah.
This is like
very different.
the ace of the WWF versus the ace of New Japan.
Exactly.
Very, very much like best versus the best. So then I started to think, well, that kind of reminded me a little bit of like the Punk Joe situation, where you're kind of like the two top guys. And then, so I kind of get lost in that range. So like the mid 30s ish to like 20s ish. I get lost in there.
Samoa Joe versus CM Punk is currently number 14.
Yes, but Nick Bockwinkel and Kurt Hennig is number 39.
Right.
So I'm getting lost somewhere in this 20s and 30s range, because when you break down some of those matches, I mean, what have we reviewed that is like this?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get in there. And you look at the list, you see your Nakamura Ibushis, you see your Kurt and Samoa Joes. I wouldn't necessarily compare those two. Maybe the Four Pillars tag match, which is ironic because I'm comparing an All Japan match to a New Japan match. I would even say maybe Shibata Ishii, but that's a very different. That's who can take more punishment. Where this is who can out wrestle.
I like the comparison to Shibata Ishii. I actually like this comparison to Joe and Punk. It really does feel like it was that sort of story that they were telling. And if you go back and you watch what Joe and Punk did that night, they had the crowd in the palm of their hand.
The entire time. For 60 minutes.
And it was their true ability to play that counter wrestling role, but they brought in the violence as well.
Yes. There's not as much violence here. This is more of an athletic contest that starts to go a little bit too far deeper into the match. Because
the other match that comes to mind is John Cena versus Shawn Michaels on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, that's where you're getting to where I'm getting hung up, where I'm like, I really don't know exactly where this one's to go. I feel like this is definitely a top 30, possibly even a top 20 match.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult because, as we said last time, once you break out of the 30s into the 20s, it gets so difficult.
It's time to split hairs.
We're splitting hairs, and I hate splitting hairs.
Spencer, what do you think?
So I'm sort of going up and down the list here, right? And This is the worst. I mean, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. It's the worst. I knew I would feel lower than y'all did about this match because of what we
like
say.
I said,
why we come to
I'm
wrestling.
struggling because like I want to be top 30, top 20, but I'm having a very difficult time placing it there. So that's why I think this might be a top 40 match, but I don't know.
So initially, just because of the style of wrestling match that it is, I thought Kurt Angle, Desmond Wolfe.
Okay.
Two guys that can wrestle. These guys can wrestle. Now,
these are shooters.
Now, Kurt Angle, Desmond Wolfe had a lot of, the 3 degrees of pain. There was a lot of other stuff with it that holds it back in terms of comparison to this match. So I think this match is better than that one. But that was my jumping off point in terms of if I'm looking for something to compare it to, that's what I'm comparing it to.
And for everybody at home, that is currently ranked number 52.
Right. So, out of 81 matches, I'm in the top 50 for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And as I sort of crawled up the list, I very much thought of Bockwinkel Perfect as well.
Yeah, that's kind of where I started. That's what, 39?
That made
39.
sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I ended, as I was sort of doing my climb here, I ended at 29.
29? Okay.
29. So right below Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, right above Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio from WrestleMania 21.
That's
Banks and Belair is historic for lots of reasons.
And they broke. I hate to.
And we get what you're saying.
I hate to say this, but they shattered the glass ceiling. They grabbed the brass. They really did. And I feel like that match speaks for itself. I think it's so funny.
The global ramifications of that match could be argued exceeded the global ramifications of what happened in 1979.
Only because, I would love to know this of our listeners. How many of you knew that Inoki defeated Backlund and was the WWF champion before this episode?
I didn't know that.
Who knew that? So my question is, not that it makes it any less important, but it's less known.
It is.
Because of the fact that it's sort of not recognized.
It's not recognized. Well, we said they did that because they knew it would increase the drawing power of the matches in Japan.
Absolutely.
That's why it's not recognized in America, and that's why Bob comes back with the belt.
And you guys said it and nailed it absolutely perfectly when you said that's the way business is done. You take the belt at the beginning of the tour, you get it back at the end, makes sense. That way everybody's happy.
You lose to their top guy, and then you have a feud with the top guy, and then you leave and go back to your promotion as champion again.
And so that's one of the things that I think about when we're doing this list is, man, we're going to have a list of the greatest wrestling matches in recorded history. Because how many dark matches have we seen crazy championships change hands? And
Bob Backlund lost the WWF title to Kevin Nash on a house show.
So you know what I'm saying? Not at all saying that what we're doing isn't worthwhile, because it absolutely is. But this is one of those rare examples to me where the history is there and this moment exists, but almost in its own bubble.
Yeah.
Almost in its own bubble.
It is a very unique sort of case for an episode.
It is. And
on the show.
And so, so much of what we talk about with a lot of these matches is, impact and the stage it was on and XYZ, all these things that are impacted by the outside moments of this event.
Yes.
And because this feels like a little bit in a vacuum, I don't know if I have a lot of those things to push it up the list more.
Sure.
I understand, and I agree with you.
And I think if I look where we are, number 29 is Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 21. I would definitely put this over that.
Sure.
Just given the impact that moment had.
And we know
fantastic opening WrestleMania match.
Right.
But
and we know they have a better match.
They do.
For SummerSlam.
So if we do the crawl, we get caught at Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. There is a strong argument for this match to get hung up right here.
Like I was saying, once you get into those mid-20s, because you go above that is Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe. Above that is the Queendom match. And
these are high-profile matches once you move up this list.
You really start getting into a realm of okay, on paper this might be a better scientific wrestling match, but are you going to compare this to Nakamura and Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom? Because that is
hard to do.
That's literally the passing of the torch from the old guard to the new guard.
Well, and then again, it's very much on paper, Inoki, Backlund, it's got everything you could possibly want. But how very, very interesting is it that I just want to be clear that I don't think that we're saying that you have to be on a Wrestle Kingdom or a Starrcade or a WrestleMania to be in the top third of our list.
What I meant by that is Wrestle Kingdom was in the fucking Tokyo Dome in front of 70,000 people, and it's like recognized, and it's called by JR. No, that's not what I'm. But that was just the example I picked.
If this match was called by JR, it'd be number 1.
Well,
to our very Western brains.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think. I don't think having English commentary has any impact on this match because I felt like
we did not have English commentary for this match, and we want to put it in the top 30.
Yeah. The only really change would be I would have understood the finish a little bit more. But you broke the entire build down for us when we started and answered all of my questions.
Right.
Makes sense.
And you can watch it. You can watch the story take place. And so I don't think language is a barrier really at all here.
And it really just makes me want to rewatch it with the context because I didn't have any context.
Yeah. I think the only thing that holds it back for me is that it's this sort of mythical bubble.
Yeah.
And you know, it not that 1979 means it's inherently slower because it's not, because they do really incredible stuff.
Well, as a good example, when we reviewed the World of Sport match from a year prior, that was like a slower, like grind down style, but they kept building, and then when they finally that match ends, you're like, fucking let them fight even longer. I want to see more of this, and that's how I feel after this one.
You know what I
want a return match. I want to see the next match, but there isn't another match. This is it. This
no
is the
rubber
end of their
match.
feud.
The ending makes me think of Mind Games. Just because it's an ending that is technically a dirty finish, but one that I don't think we doctored a bunch of points for.
Right.
Whereas normally, if it's, disqualified or whatever, we normally dock it pretty heavy.
I prefer – this is more the Dusty finish where though there is a fall, we do have a bell ring, and here's your big moment with you're holding the belt. I don't care if that's undone by decisions after the fact. You can do this all day. I will – buy this as a finish because me as a fan will go, that wasn't clean. No, there's interference. And that's when you have the officials come out and say, actually, because there was outside interference, this will be a draw. But even if video ends as soon as that bell rings and you have Backlund holding the title up, I'm satisfied as a fan. So the extra 5 or 6 minutes of back and forth doesn't dock it for me because they had a complete match, and now on television you see, well, Bob won his belt back.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
And it's almost like real sports. If they miss a call in a perfect world, you'd want them to come back out of the locker room and say, listen, we got that wrong. Like, this is how we need to change it up. Or
And that's exactly what happens.
And you could use that to get heat because if Bob is getting a very, very warm reception from the audience, and then they have this, and then he has this moment like, no, I'm not getting back in the ring. I won my belt. And then you get the boos and you get the heat. I'm like, you can get so much heat and you can like really push for, well, we're going to have another match, and now we're going to build it and do a bigger number because once again, that's just how you did business back in the day. And I kind of wish they would do more stuff like this. Maybe not in the bubble or the vacuum, which we're speaking of, but just have these cross promotions like, oh my God, well, the New Japan is the champion of this company, but he's not going to travel to defend the belt, so that means we have to send our guy to New Japan to win our belt back. Like, you can write such an amazing story with this.
The forbidden door is open.
That's what I was thinking about. Like, we're about to see an AEW New Japan crossover in June, so I'm curious to see if they try something like that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if the forbidden door ends with the top ace of New Japan winning the AEW World title and refusing to defend it on AEW television?
So you got to go all the way to New Japan to get it back. I love it.
So whoever number one contender is, whether it is Adam Page or if it's CM Punk or whomever, they have to then go to New Japan to try to win the belt back. That makes me as a fan, well, I'm going to go subscribe to New Japan World so I can see if whoever is going to win the belt back. And I'm thinking, well, what if somebody on AEW wins the New Japan title? If I'm in Japan, I'm watching AEW to see who's going to win. Like,
ultimately, I cannot wait to see the AEW World Championship be defended in New Japan Pro Wrestling by Ric Flair. I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, well, guys,
29 seems to be the ranking here.
I was just going to say, well, we're dancing around it. We're all talking 29.
Antonio Inoki versus
right.
Bob Backlund, the 29th greatest wrestling match of all time through 82.
Wow.
Let us know what you think. hit us up on Twitter and Facebook at Last Match Cast. Make sure you're following along all of our socials there. We want to know what you think. Did we rank it too high, too low? What do you want to see for the rest of Season 5? We'll be here ready to go on our road to 100.
Got 18 matches left this season.
Yep.
Until episode 83, I'm Spenser.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.